Welcome guests to the Elder Brew House. I am joined by my hosts IC Mike and JK Dubs. This is your host Noble, and we have a guest host today, B-Rad from High Ground Gaming.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. My name's Brad from High Ground Gaming, and I put out Magic content as well. So really excited to be on here and talk about some deck building, as that's something I enjoy doing very much.
Alright, thank you for that awesome introduction, Brad. We will have his content linked in the description below as well if you would like to follow him. Today, our discussion of choice is going to be how to decide which cards fit best in our 99 and what we do to decide cuts or keeps.
Alright, so to start us off, let's start off with yours. Brad, what's one of your favorite commanders right now?
So probably have to say right now my favorite commander is Ketchermos, the New Dawn.
From Aether Drift.
Been having a blast with it. Yeah, so from Aether Drift. Been having a blast with it. Pretty much right when it leaked, I started brewing it and built a Discord for it. And yeah, been running it ever since. We got a little community together and really kicked off, different lines and working as a big unit to figure out the deck and get it kind of to the place where it is today.
Yeah, there you go. And if I remember right, a couple weeks ago, you did also do a deck tech on that deck with Thunder Conductor.
Yeah. If you go to Thunder Conductor, you can see kind of me break down the entirety of the deck, every interaction, every reason every card exists in the deck, what it's used for. So really thorough. If you are interested in Ketchermos, that is definitely worth your time.
Definitely. And we just had Thunder Conductor with us too on our last one. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Really knowledgeable. So, what about you, JK? Well, what do we got for your favorites currently?
I feel like I'm cheating a little bit, but I couldn't really pick one. I still really like Kennen a lot. I think it's pretty strong. As for one that I've been playing more recently is Timnatana, Hulk / Birthing Pod lines. And actually recently I even added Jolly Blue Man. Thanks to you, Brad.
Well, if you want to talk Jolly Blue Man, that is definitely my tournament deck for sure.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just got some new stuff for it too. Some new spicy Voice of Victory is absolutely going to be glorious in that deck, making some 1/1s as well as just stopping people from interacting with you, which is always nice when you're not playing blue.
Another Grand Abolisher that's easier to cast? Yeah, I'll take that.
Oh yeah.
And then for me right now, do mine next year. Right now I've been messing around with the new Codus. I've actually been messing around with both of them. I like both of them equally for different reasons. But I've definitely been on a Sultai kick. I even built up the new Deval. Still trying to figure out where I want to go with that one. But yeah, both Coduses, very different play styles. One of them very combo oriented through the graveyard, while the other one is closest to a Voltron commander as I feel I could get in Sultai. What about you, Noble?
My favorite, as everyone in this meeting knows, is Terra, the Herald of Hope. She's one of the newest commanders that's been spoiled from Final Fantasy. And another one that's crept up in my favorites within the last week is Felithar, Dawn of the Abzan. I have built Terra to be Turbo Mardu Reanimator combo. Her main combo lines are Forsaken Miner lines as well as Underworld Breach lines. Felithar is a Turbo Hulk deck, and every game that I've ever gotten Hulk out turn 3 at the absolute latest, and has won the game when it's won by turn 5 at the absolute latest. I recently had a little bit of a collaboration with TTC using Felithar, and in that gameplay there were 5 win attempts from me that were pushed.
That's a lot.
One was on turn 3, and that one was stopped right away from Busybacks and Flare of Duplicationing my silence effect that I was trying to cast so that I could do the line. And then my second one attempt was stopped simply from not being able to push through the interaction that Roxai had. And then the final one attempt for me was actually all in one turn. It was me pushing to sack, getting stopped by the Bohar player, and then trying to reanimate my Hulk so I could try again. Once again was stopped by the Bohar player. And then the final push used a card that literally everyone was questioning, called Altar of Bone, which is a sacrifice a creature, search for a creature.
Nice.
I sacked the bird that I got from the song that stopped my persist to reanimate my Hulk. Activated Sleeper and ended up turning it into a Hulk and winning on that spot anyways. It was a very entertaining game. Excited for the gameplay to be released.
So kind of as you kind of went in there, for like MVP plays, have you had any recent kind of craziness go on with yours there, Brad, with Ketchermos?
Yeah, I've had a couple of crazy wild games with Ketchermos.
Any special MVP cards that kind of,
Parallax Wave is the MVP of that deck a lot of times. I think any time I've ever cast it, it always ends up winning me the game or stopping somebody or just being like the most political piece on the table. If anybody's not familiar, Parallax Wave is a 4-drop, 2 white, 2 colorless enchantment. When it comes into play, it has 5 fading counters on it. And fading counters work as, on your upkeep, you remove a fading counter on it. And if you can't remove a fading counter on it, you sack it. And basically, the card's ability is remove a fading counter on it to exile a creature. And then, the more you try to exile creatures, the less time those creatures get exiled. So it's a really fun card to work because you can use it as a political piece. Because if, say, you remove like a Bowmaster, Bowman and somebody's like a draw deck and they go to like they're like about to cast something, you can be like, hey, if you cast that, I'm going to use my Parallax Wave on it, and then if I use my Parallax Wave on it, this guy's getting his Bowmaster back next turn instead of 2 turns. Like, do you really want to do that? And then they're like, okay, yeah, I won't cast it. So then they like do a different thing. So not only did I not have to use my counter, I just had a player now like delay what they were trying to do for a whole nother turn without having to use the ability on my thing, and now I have a Bowmaster gone for 2 more turns, which really hurts my deck, especially Ketchermos. When you're taking 2 damage per card draw, it really speeds things up for not getting there. But yeah, that card is great. You can exile 5 things. So the game I'm thinking of, I exiled 5 things immediately, cast Abdel, and then I went into an Abdel loop, which allowed me to keep giving everybody their creatures back. But as I exiled those 5 creatures, I was drawing 5 cards. And then I was exiling them again. And then I got to a point where then I just kept the cards exiled once I hit my combo. And then I just won. But super fun card, Parallax Wave, in that deck.
Yeah, I've been looking at it, adding it in a couple more of my decks that are running light. Every time I've seen you play it, it puts in more work than the mana that gets put into it.
Yeah, and the fact that like Ketchermos draws off the exiles too, so like not only is it like in that deck you're like, hey, I have this like semi board like controlled board wipe, but like you don't have to do it on your turn. You can remove a counter anytime. So like when somebody tries to pop off, you can threaten them with a counter. Or if you're on your turn, you're like, I'll exile 2 creatures right away, draw 2 cards. I didn't get there, let me exile. Like I think that same game I ended up exiling like somebody's Bird of Paradise because I was like, crap, I don't have anything going for me right now. Let's just exile 1 more card, draw a card. I drew like the right card I needed, right? So it has that super flexibility, and it's just a great political piece. I love it.
So I actually want to ask you a question about that because I really like Parallax Wave. And in that situation that you just mentioned, Abdel plus Parallax Wave, is that potentially infinite? how does that work? Because Abdel comes in, it'll remove it until Abdel leaves, right? So
Yeah.
like in response, could you target it with Parallax Wave?
No, there is a way you can do it, but you have to have a like Flicker Wisp to do it. You have to have not Flicker Wisp. You have to have Feldar Guardian. Anything that doesn't have separate text. The problem with Abdel and Parallax Wave is there's separate text, so you can't target it because it would need to exile it. Like what's nice about like a lot of people that play Ketchamos are on Feldar Guardian for Parallax Wave specifically, because with that you put the trigger on the stack on Parallax Waves and it blinks it instead of exiling it. So you need something that like flickers instead of exiling it, because once it exiles it under, you can't, it won't do the ability because there's nothing to put it under.
At first I thought you meant like a Fiend Hunter effect where it's two
No, yeah, like you need like a flicker,
Gotcha.
because then you target the Parallax Wave with the flicker. With that on the stack, you exile the guy that flickers, it goes under Parallax Wave, then Parallax Wave flickers, leaves, your Feldar comes back, that comes back, and then you just keep targeting it over and over again. And then at the same time, you can exile like 4 other creatures while you keep doing it over and over again, giving you either the card draw you need to win, or you can just keep going until,
Get rid of a stacks piece. Well, kind of. I guess you could.
Kind of, yeah. You could just keep doing it until basically draw your deck. I mean, is the goal, I would say, in Ketchamos at least. But
And you're not.
I don't know, maybe you have like ETB. If you have ETB triggers or other creatures that have ETBs, you can target your own stuff and maybe like search your library for 2 drops off of like a recruiter or something like that,
Right.
over and over.
So are you on the Feldar Guardian? Like,
I'm not. I used to be on it, and then once I learned that Feldar didn't work with like reanimation spells, I thought that you could flicker the like a Dance of the Dead and then bring back Feldar Guardian and just keep flickering the Dance of the Dead for ETB triggers. But I found out, because once again, it's one thing, right? It doesn't actually work that way. Like it won't be able to see the Feldar Guardian in the graveyard. So once that was established for me, I kind of came off it because it was just too wonky of a thing to go for, and like there's not enough like flicker things that I want to flicker on my board to begin with. So like I came off it immediately when I found out it didn't work that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That definitely.
Yeah. I definitely like Feldar Guardian. I am running it in my Tim Nantana deck. I don't know if it's quite as good as it would be in that.
Oh, it's definitely in Jolly Balloon Man. I mean, that it goes infinite with Jolly.
100%.
So like, yeah, like I love Feldar Guardian. It's just, it needs to be in the right shell, right? Like there's definitely, I like we talk about tonight, finding the cards that fit for what you're trying to do. And sometimes you got to cut things, especially when it gets really tight and you're trying to do too many things. You got to cut back and really focus on certain aspects of your deck and certain lines that you want to reinforce, because I'm a big person that I want at least three lines that you can do with like each card, right? Like there's got to be like 2 to 3 lines you can do, layered combos. And in Ketchamos, Feldar Guardian really was only with Parallax Wave. So I was like, you know what, Parallax Wave is just really good it doesn't need to do all that. Like it can just be my 4-mana board wipe, like controlled board wipe that I use as a political piece.
This is that rule of 3 that me and TTC talked about last time. There's actually several people that believe in that for redundancy.
Yep.
And that's actually going to be a potential future topic that we talk about in a future podcast episode. So be sure to stay tuned, do the like and subscribe and all of that.
It's a good topic, because that's like something I live by when I deck build, for sure.
Same. I can't get more than 2 or at least 3 of the same redundancy. I usually end up cutting it. Like similar with how you're doing with Feldar, where it's like it only interacts with 1 card. There's no way to really make it explode outside of that 1 card. It's maybe not in the right shell.
Right. And in Jolly Balloon Man, like Feldar does so much. Like I do so much with it in Jolly Balloon Man. Like it's not just a combo piece. It's like a reset. Sometimes you just need to reset a card and flicker it out and bring it back in, like a mana vault, just to keep going or something like that, right? So, and then I got everything's an ETB trigger. So, if you need to search for something or if you need to reset, any card Felder Grain's great, especially because it can hit land. It can hit anything. Can it hit land? Off the top of my head,
I'm pretty sure it's permanence.
I'm looking it up right now.
No, I'm looking
Yeah,
at it.
I got my
it's
deck in my hand.
permanent.
Yeah, it's permanent. Yeah, so I've like reset like a land that I needed like a color for, right? Like it can literally hit anything, which is nice.
Yeah. So here's kind of the segue with these important cards that kind of make or break themselves in the deck because of synergies. Brad, I'm curious, how do you determine what you're really going to go with? Are you kind of basing everything around the commander, or do you necessarily go, okay, the commander's here to enable things, but it's not going to be my priority?
So the way I've always built decks, so I guess just to give some background, I run the Jolly Balloon Man Discord and the Catchamos Discord, both decks that as soon as they're leaked, I brewed and built. So love building like decks that have never been, proven or tested or, So when I'm going into building a deck like that, I'm looking at the commander and I'm saying, what about this commander is broken and how can I break it in CDH? So for me, Catchamos was, man, you can exile a lot of things from graveyards and draw cards, right? So the first thing I did when I started building that deck was I just looked up every card in black, colorless, and white that had the word exile in it. And I went through the entire database, and I'd never even knew Parallax Wave existed. And yeah, it was a lot of cards. It was like, tons of cards. And, I broke it down to mana. So like, I kind of stopped looking once I got a little farther down the line, right? Like, once I hit like 5-6 CMC, I started just really just scrolling quickly. But, those first 1 to 3, I really looked in heavily on what cards existed in those mana cost. And, I went through the whole deck just saying what exiles what, like what's good, what can I use to like draw my deck, what can I use to exile things that will keep me going, like how can I loop this? And then I stumbled on Reanimator loops and was like, okay, I think Reanimator loops are a fine way to go with this deck. And then I kind of came off the Reanimator loops because I wanted to go into like hardcore exiling like graveyards, and then I was like, well, I can't do hardcore exiling graveyards if I'm on Reanimator loops. And then I kind of was like, know what, I need to find a happy medium because the Reanimator loops were too good. So I basically build it around the commander and my own personal play style, how I like to play things. I'm like a mid-range. I don't know, it's really funny whenever I try to describe my decks. I'm always like, it's a deck that can win on turn 2 or 3, right? I always want a deck that's like, I can threaten turn like 3 easily, right? Or 2 if I get lucky. Nowadays 2 is a little harder, so let's say 3. And then from there it's like, but I want it to like go into mid-range hell really nice. So I really build my decks to go into that mid-range hell, and I always build like slight stacks into my decks. I was a heavy stacks player when I first started CDH, when it first kind of came around. So that's always with me. So all my decks have small stacks pieces involved in them. But in this day and age, you can't go too heavy on the stacks, or you just watch somebody else pull the game away.
Right. I was just gonna ask you why you strayed away from that.
Yeah, there was too many games where I locked the whole board down. There's no way I lose this, and somebody's just like, Demonic Constellation, Thassa's Oracle, and you're just like, oh, okay, except for that. I don't have an answer for that. And then you're like, I stopped everybody else from doing something. But too many times I just keep drawing another stacks piece, and I'm like, this is
How stacky can you get your stacks?
Yeah, you're like, oh, everything's an island, and now things don't untap. You're like, cool. Like, stop drawing the same like redundancy. Which redundancy, like we talked about. I don't think you need redundancy for stacks pieces though. You need like a stacks piece that does something, another stacks piece that does something, and if you get it, like, hoorah, right? Like you're not worried about what stacks piece you get unless whatever you're looking at the table.
Kind of with that is with these MVP cards, A lot of people, their MVP cards are the generic loops that most CDH decks run through. As you kind of mentioned, Thassa's Oracle kind of gets around a lot of stuff, going Kinnan, infinite mana, and just kind of break through everything. Same with Thrasios decks, where you kind of just their MVP is always going to be that infinite mana loop, being able to just kind of spin through things. As you kind of mentioned, Parallax Wave. That's an old. I was gonna say newer card. It's an older card that some communities they've been lauding about for years. That card's been out for a long time, and it's recently started. I've noticed starting to pick up speed in CH now. A lot more decks are starting to run it because of just the value that it gains. And you had mentioned you didn't really know about it beforehand, which is cool. You're looking through and finding these cards, and then you're pulling it out, and then you watch it kind of become a staple. In a lot of decks. That was one thing. I personally love your Ketramos deck. I actually stole it to make a dual commander deck because it's.
Oh yeah, thank you. No,
Ketramos is doing waves in dual commander as well.
I bet.
So,
and standard. I guess in standard it's pretty.
It's doing waves everywhere, and it's great. And the cards that support it that weren't staples before, they're blowing up to go with it. Like Planar Void.
Planar Void.
Oh,
let's talk
so
about
glad
Planar
I already
Void.
had one.
I didn't know that card existed until I started building Ketramos.
I remember when we
started
talked
with
about
like
that.
Rest in Peace. I started on Rest in Peace, and I was like, "This is great!" I play tested, and then somebody was like, I was like play testing it, and somebody's like, "You know, like Rest in Peace, the card never goes to the graveyard, so like you don't trigger Ketramos, right?" And I was like, "Oh no!"
I was there for that conversation, and I'm just like,
"Oh no!"
Void?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, "Oh, this card exists," and it's like, "Oh, it's one cheaper? Like, no way! Like, this is way better."
And it triggers on the graveyard, which is great.
One MVP card I do want to mention that I actually think is great for Hashaton that Brad actually ended up pulling me onto simply from his Ketramos deck is the card Confessor. When you run Necropotence as a key card in Hashaton, Confessor, when you're discarding your cards, helps a lot.
As the only reason I found Confessor was, once again, I looked up what's every card that has the word life gain in it, and that I literally went through, started at 0 to whatever mana pips, and I was going through ones, and I was like, this card is nuts, because it's just like, what, every time anybody discards, so like when you're running wheels, or everybody's running wheels, like I once had that card in play because it's if anybody discards a card, you gain a life. And I was playing Ketramos, and somebody was like, I had it in play like turn 1, and they were just like, Wheel of Fortune on like turn 2 or 3, and I was like, sweet, and nobody had any answer for it, and I was like, I'll gain 28, and everybody's like, wait, whoa, what? And I was like, yeah, I gained 28, and the whole table was like, wait, no you don't. And I was like, yeah, read the card. You all drew or discarded your hands or whatever it was. It wasn't 28, it was somewhere around there, but yeah, because people had cast cards, but it was something like 20 something. And then everybody was like making fun of the guy that did it, and they're like, way to give the Ketramos player like 20 life.
Yeah, wheels become very dangerous against the Ketramos deck.
Oh yeah,
Wheels are great.
Does anyone have any specific process for finding cards to support specific strategies, or how do you guys decide what strategies your commanders are going to run? Like, what makes you decide that your commander is going to be your commander for the specific strategy?
For me, it's just a card I fall in love with the moment I read it. Like, something for me, like the first time I read Jolly Balloon Man, I didn't really read the part that said sorcery speed. I'm gonna be very honest, but I read that. I was like, 1 mana for a 3-drop with 4 bot that is basically Kiki Jiki but you just gotta pay 1. Like, how can I break this? Like, I don't know. It's a card that you just see that you're like, how can I break this? How is this gonna be broken in CDH? Like, even if it's a deck that's already been discovered, right? Like Rograk and like Thrasios or something, right?
I actually have a little bit of a deck story around Felithar and how I ended up on Felithar versus what the previous commanders were. Because I was like, I want to make a Felithar deck. or I want to make a Hulk deck, I was looking at the partners, Sam and Frodo. They're Abzan, and they are a Hulk deck. I was looking at it and I was going, how do I want to make this more dedicated to Hulk versus foods? Because it was primarily a food Hulk, not true, like, Hulk is the reason I won the game. So I started looking through the cards, kind of like how Brad did for Ketramos. I was looking at every single card that could make a Hulk pile that's reasonable and able to be assembled easily. Ways to sacrifice the Hulk without too much interaction being on the stack. And that's when I happened upon Felithar in the Scribefall spoilers section. It was like, ETB, kill Hulk, win the game. If my commander resolves, Hulk wins. So I was like, screw these hobbits. I love the pun that they make with what about second Hulk, because of the second breakfast for hobbits. And I was like, I should be smart about this and use the commander that will better utilize Hulk for what I want it to be used for. So that's where I ended up going with Felithar, was I chose her to be the main commander, and I dug deep into the cleanest Hulk lines to win with possible. The Hulk lines that win the easiest are Forsaken Miner, with War Infiltrator, Blood Artist, and Forsaken Miner, or Gravecrawler instead of the Forsaken Miner. So that's my redundancy for that combo line. And then I have the Cauldron Familiar line, which has Samwise, Gamgee, Cauldron Familiar, Grand Abolisher, and either Viserys or Carrion Feeder. And Grand Abolisher now has a new replacement for it called Voice of Victory. So that's my redundancies for that one. And it's been great. I am currently going through the process of finding cards that fit the strategy a little bit better than some of the cards that I've been finding that are kind of duds lately with the gameplay that I've been testing with Belethar. And that's the point of the topic for this podcast today anyways. I tried Adnaz, and I'm actually looking at potentially replacing Adnaz with something that I don't know if I want more protection. I don't know if I want to have a way to bring Hulk back from exile in case it gets like Path or Swords or whatever. Opposition Agented, because it does get exiled face up with Opposition Agent. So I can pull from Eternity my Hulk if someone tutors it out of my yard or out of my deck with an Opposition Agent to where I at least have it and they can't use it or something like that.
I'll definitely say something that I think people get caught up in, and that's cool that you just, because this is something I think about all the time. So like Adnaz, wonderful card, broken card wins games, card's amazing. I don't play it in Ketramos. Like I know a lot of people give me a lot of crap for not playing Adnaz in Ketramos, but like it's a wonderful card and it wins games. But like at 5 mana in that specific deck where I can already loop draw my deck in so many different ways with like Necropotence and things like that, like you don't just have to put a card in a deck because it is an OP card, right? Yeah. Like sometimes you find, hey, like is it Adnaz or do I play Parallax Wave, right? This is a 4-drop that draws me 5 cards. Do like, is that good enough where it can get me there and have utility to do other things instead of be the... And it's also really fun to say I'm not on Adnaz, especially playing Ketramos. I've had people not attack me because I've admitted to not being on Adnaz, and they hit the Adnaz player
for the same reason, just so I can say I'm not it, and then people don't smack me.
Yeah, it's like that guy's on Treasonous Ogre, and then usually when I'm playing Ketramos, somebody at the table would be like, dude, his commander literally loses 1 life when he draws, like as he draws cards, like hit him, and I'm like, shh, don't point at me. But from that standpoint, like, yeah, like I'm right now building Deadpool, and I had Adnaz in it from the beginning, and I'm getting down to cuts, and I just took Adnaz out because I have too many, like, I'm on Hoarding Broodlord, and I'm just like, a Hoarding Broodlord combo, that's like, if I hit that, that's like
dead on board.
I'm dead. Like, I have to stop at like 10 life, like, because I'm too scared to flip a Hoarding Broodlord, or I have a ton of big draw. I have World Gorger Dragon in that deck, right? Like that's
another one
two.
you don't want to hit.
Yeah, it's just like I can't run it. Like I'm running two combos that run the most expensive creature because I'm on all reanimation effects, right? So it's never just run something because it's good. Like run it because it fits what you're trying to do with the deck and it makes sense. Is what I'm trying to get.
That is actually bringing up a very good point. That is why I was on Adnaz. I was testing it in the deck because Hulk is the only card in there that is higher cost than Adnaz. Everything else is lower cost than Adnaz in that deck. So I figured it would be safe to test it, and every single time I tested it, I died to it. So it is definitely one of the cards that I am looking to cut out of the deck.
Yeah, and like especially for Ketramos, like you're already paying so much life every turn. Like you are paying life all the time. Like, and people at the table are hitting you.
Yep.
So like you're already like throw Adnos into that, and now you're like Adnosing for like 10 cards, right? So Parallax Wave doesn't look so bad when you're removing those things that are hitting you, and it's one cheaper, and it draws you up to 5 cards. So yeah, I mean I think that's a great point that you made. Except Esper Sentinel. If you're running white, you just run Esper Sentinel.
I feel like that's a guarantee.
There are definitely staples. There's definitely staples that you just
like blue with Rhystic and Mystic.
Yeah. You when I build a deck, I start with the staples, right? Like you almost cookie cutter the staples of those colors. You can take any deck that's a known and just start from there, and then cut everything. Add your commander and say, okay, I got my Grim Monolith, I got my Mana Vault, I got my, all the Moxes, I got,
all the baseline stuff. Yep.
Yeah, all the baseline stuff, and then you go, okay, I'm in these colors. Like, I'm in white. Like, I'm running the Esper Sentinels, I'm running the Silence, I'm running the Enlightened Tutors, I'm running, you're in red, you're running the Underworld Breach. You're probably running Underworld Breach, even if it's a value piece. Like, I run Underworld Breach in one of my decks. It's literally just it has like a combo you can do with it, but like it's really just there because late game, draw Breach, go for your win again, right?
Well, for like me, I run Rain Freeze in my Codis Thingkeeper deck. Normally that's a game-ending piece with Underworld, but obviously I don't have red for Underworld. But it's such
right.
But if I could hit somebody for 15 or 20 and I hit 12 playable cards, they're all getting cast. I don't give a shit what they do. I'll cast them just to cast them.
That's like Alter the Brood. When I put Alter the Brood in Ketramos, like I found that card when I was trying to figure out ways to mill people, because once again I looked up what mills cards, and I looked through every card that mills, and I came across Alter the Brood, and I was just like, this seems very good with my reanimator like thing that I'm doing. And I can't tell you how many games I've just won because I loop a reanimator loop and mill the whole table and nobody can do anything about it, or B, like I just play it turn 1 and I like play something and somebody mills like one of their most important cards, and I'm just like, eat that Thassa's with my 1-drop like eat a card out of a graveyard. And then they're just like, oh no. So like milling people is great, like especially it also has lost me games where you have a reanimator deck that like hits their own like
you give them their value piece.
Yeah.
You've done that to me with it.
Yeah, I just posted a game recently where a Rakdos muscle deck was like, it was like turn 3, like they were in seat 1, and I like was like, yeah, I'll just cast a couple things, we'll be safe. And I like hit his perfect thing, and he's just like, loop, like Chthonian Nightmare and loop this, and I was like, oops, sorry guys. Like,
yeah, that
my
happens.
bad.
It fuels graveyard strategies, but
Right.
other than that, it hits a lot of stuff. I've had games where I just play Alter the Brood turn 1, and by turn 3 I've milled 7-ish cards, and some people are just out of the game.
Yeah, it hits like, especially if they're not on things like that, or like it hits their Force of Will, and all of a sudden you're like the next player and you just milled their Force of Will. You're like, I feel way more confident going for it now. Like, I know they milled a Force of Will.
Yeah.
I mean, or especially if you're playing it in a blue deck, or I guess any other colors that have flash creatures, and they go for a top deck tutor, you could just get them.
Oh yeah, if they like Imperial Seal or something like that, definitely been there. That's more of my. I'm a huge fan of Mindcrank, and
What chief?
I play Francisco Malcolm. Well, I used to, and I can't tell you how many times people would vamp tutor with my Mindcrank and play, and I'd be like, all right, put that card on top, and they're like, okay, and I'm like, all right, lose 2 life, and they're like, oh yeah, lose 2 life, and I'm like, mill 2 cards, and they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yep, Mindcrank trigger, and they're like, no, and then they're like, whatever it was, like a ad nause or a
Their winning piece right into the graveyard.
yeah, just right in the grave. Ristic. I've seen some Ristic studies go that way. I'm just like, bye Ristic.
I see.
Glad I never
love
met
seeing
ya.
a Mindcrank when I'm running like a bunch of Vamp Tutor, Imp Seal, and stuff like that. I'll play into it because, to me, my favorite go-to for decks is if I have black, there's a Reanimator package. I don't care what the deck does. I find a way to shove a Reanimator package in there just because sometimes I need to steal somebody else's. It's not even maybe for mine. It's to stop somebody else from getting their piece.
Of course. What's nice is even if you want to jam a Reanimator package, depending on your colors, like there's so many different ways to go with it, right? Like when I am building Deadpool right now and I'm putting a lot of brain power into it, and I went Reanimator, but it's so interesting because it's such a different Reanimator setup than my Ketchamos deck. Like they're totally different Reanimator packages because Ketchamos is white. Like I'm reanimating all white creatures that do the thing, right? And then in red black, like it's a totally different Reanimator package. Like you're doing something totally different.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually have a friend who was asking me about my Felithar deck and was like, hey, so you've got a Hulk deck. What's your thoughts about this Felithar being the Hulk deck? And the answer is they're both really good Hulk decks. One is much better in the turbo aspect of Hulk versus the mid-range aspect of Hulk, which is how I think Felithar Steadfast is. Felithar Steadfast is definitely a much better mid-range Hulk deck versus Felithar Dawn being a much better turbo / mid-range Hulk deck. It just depends on how you build the decks. Speaking of building decks, how do we decide what cuts we need to make for the 99 when it comes to building these decks? Because inevitably we always end up going over our 100 card limit when we're first building decks due to that's how brewers' minds work. We find every single card and then we figure out which ones work best. What's the thought process for how we do this? Like, how do you decide if one card is better versus another card for the 99?
So for me personally, I'm a big fan of, I guess I'll just take it through this route. So like building a Tali, the decks has existed, many people have played it. I basically taken a Tali list that I saw did very well, and then I add, like you said, add a bunch of my own cards that I thought of for a Tali. And then you have, you're up like to 120 cards or whatever it is, right? And then from there, I just start cutting what I feel like. I look at mana, like the mana range, like where I am mana wise, right? So I break it down into like 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, so see where I am there. And then I say, okay, this is how many four mana drops I have. I need to now cut down. So I'm going to start cutting some 4 drops. Like, let's see which ones I'm not absolutely in love with. I start whittling down the 4 drops that I'm like, okay, I have way too many 1 drops, like way too many 2 drops, way too many 3 drops. So then I keep whittling it down. I want to see more like a peak around the 2 and 3 and like 1 and 0, 1, and like 0 is going to always be like all those mana rocks or whatever. Like that always stays the same. But like the 1 to 3 and 4 I think is really important to get, so you have like this peak, like a mountain almost of your deck build, right? So you really want that 3 to 2 to be like higher than everything. So I start whittling down based off mana cost, and then from there I'd say this 100%, like playtesting. Like try one card for a month, right? Like sometimes it's a month before you even see it, and sometimes you draw it and you're like, oh, this card sucks. And like it just sits in your hand the whole game, and you cast
Sometimes
everything else but it.
2 games that you test with a deck, and you try the same thing twice, and you totally fumble it. Adnos.
Right.
But on that real quick, even if you see a card like let's say once every 10 or so games and it's not valuable in the moment, I don't think that's a reason to cut it. A lot of people just jump to the conclusion that I draw this card, it's dead right now, I should cut it. But you haven't gotten enough time in with the card to know if it actually works.
True. And I guess, yeah, when I say that, it's like sometimes I'll draw it and I'll just be like, I just wish this was anything else. Like I've had many times where I was like, I was in love with a card in theory, and then I was in a game and I was like, man, like this is not what I thought it would feel like when I draw it, right? Or you know, when you draw it a couple different times and you're like it's not winning me the game, it's not stopping anybody, it's not like it's not doing what I thought it would be.
Bad in practice.
Yeah. Or
I've done
like
that
this
with
is
all-
great.
With like tutor targets too, it's like, okay, let me tutor. And you start looking at what do you always tutor, and you're like, when you built the deck, you're like, oh, these are the handful of cards that I'm gonna always tutor for. And then as you start to play, you realize maybe one or two of those cards you just never tutor for.
And the third one you're just never going for, and you're like, wow, I've never like wanted this card. Like I thought I would, but like I've never wanted this card. Like it's not as good as I thought it would.
So Brad, do you think you fall into the category of if you see it like once or twice and it's just a pure dead card, then you'll cut it?
It depends on what the card is. Like there's a lot that goes into it more than just like this was a dead card, you know, like or there's like also times where I've had a card in a deck and I think it works one way and somebody's like, yo, that doesn't work the way you thought it did, and I'm like, oh, that's gone. Like that Feldar Guardian thing, like you know, like I'm like, oh, this is great, like this card's crazy in my deck, and then you're like, I do this, and somebody's like, oh, that's not how it works. You're like,
What?
oh, but this card is terrible. Okay,
Yeah.
bye. Like this card is getting removed immediately. So I mean, like, I've been definitely in those because you know when I'm brewing a commander, a lot of times it's a new commander that just came out and is not like existed before, right? So there's like Ketchermos, super weird interactions that's never really existed before, right? So lots of different. Hashdown's another one, like a lot of weird things that you've never come up. Or like you like search it on the internet and there's like nothing. You're like, oh no, nobody's bumped into this yet, you know. So when those come up, yeah, I'll cut a card real quick once I find out it doesn't work the way I thought it did. But you know, it depends. You know, sometimes I'll take into account like what decks are at the table. Like sometimes you're just like, oh, like this card is bad because of who I was playing against, right? Like I'd never cut a card because I was like, oh, I played against Kinnan and this card wasn't good against Kinnan. It's like, well, you know, it's really good against every other deck.
Is it good against a general amount of decks? And if it's not good against a general amount of decks, it's not good.
Yeah, so a card, I'll just say, a card I just added, Jolly Blue Man, I haven't got to try it out yet, but I got really excited. I randomly stumbled upon it, was Tax Collector. It's a 2-drop, a 1 white, and a 1 colorless from the Assassin's Creed set, which was a sad set. And it says, when it enters the battlefield, choose one. Tax until your next turn. Spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast. Or arrest, detain a creature your opponent controls until your next turn. It can't attack, block, or use any of its activated abilities. So like, I saw this card and I was like, oh my god, Jolly Balloon Man, because you play Tax Collector, and then if you copy him, everybody's spells at the table now cost 2 more to cast. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sure I get back to my next turn. Or I can make everything 1 extra to cast and turn off a, like, whatever at the table I don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a Kinnan or a... You just turn off a Kinnan. If Thrasios, they have Seaborn Muse, I'm just like, oh yeah, no, like, you're not doing that every turn. You can do it on your own turn. Like, or you can do it only on my turn. You know, so it's like, there's a lot of cards out there, like I said, I haven't got to do it yet, but in theory that should be pretty cool until somebody like wins through it and nobody can counter their spells, and I'm like, ugh, is this as good as I thought it was? Because somebody had infinite mana and just could pay for it and nobody could interact with them or counter any of their spells, because like once you do it you can't pull it back. Like if the card dies, the ability still sticks. So like, you know, it's gonna happen. There will be a game where somebody goes infinite mana and just wins, and I'm like, oops, like my bad.
Now, do you think that is sufficient evidence that you should cut it if somebody could just pay for it?
I don't think so, because like if you get this early game, like early game against a Rog threat, like a Rog,
Rogsai.
Rogsai, that card kills Rogs. Like it is death to Rogsai. Like it's death to a lot of decks. Now Thrasios, like it's an infinite mana deck where it can just get infinite mana. But like at that point, like I'm a knowledgeable enough player to say, hey, that person's scary. Let me turn off their Thrasios, because you can just use it for that instead, right? So the fact that it has those two modes on it is what I love about it, because in the moment you can turn whichever way you need to.
Yeah.
Speaking of making decisions about like specific strategies and stuff, like how Tax Collector could tax everybody and could disable a specific like activated ability creature that's on the board, a Boogeyman commander like Kennen. What are some examples on how we decide how strong a combo is based on how dead the cards are outside of the combo? A very common one that I've heard being talked about a lot recently is actually the most prevalent combo in the game. Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation. A lot of people are feeling like Demonic Consultation is a worse card than they were initially thinking, specifically because if they need to use it as a forbidden tutor, they are risking losing that card in that top 6 and then just losing the game because they can't get the card they named.
I prefer Tainted Pact over that, and I have in all of my decks that run Thassa's combo. I refuse to run Demonic for that exact reason, because I can use Tainted for the Thassa's line, or if I just I need a counterspell right now, let me cast this, let me go get my Force of Will. Yeah, maybe I exiled half my deck to get it, but I just stopped that person from winning. You know what I mean? And I might still have a chance to be in the game. It just turns off the Thassa's line.
That is the downside to the Forbidden Tutors, is they exile so much of your deck, potentially, that you could just straight up exile the only ways that your deck wins. Which brings me back to the rule of 3 when it comes to combos. Having so much redundancy that you can exile 2 or 3 pieces, and your deck can still win the game outside of those 2 or 3 pieces being exiled.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that whole dead card conversation, Thassa's Oracle, outside of the combo, does pretty much nothing except for draw you 2, maybe 5 cards.
It could. It could do more if you play heavy blue.
Let's just scry a couple. If you play heavy blue, you can scry or whatever, see how many cards on top and then put them. I think Thassa's still.
It's one of those unique ones that people, I think, kind of skip over the rule of 2 or 3, or because it's an instant win if you have the combo.
Yeah, the benefit to Thassa's is just so outweighs anything.
It's one of the unique combos.
It's the best way to win a game, right? Like
it's really hard to stop that ETB, which makes it a very efficient combo when it has the combo line.
Yeah.
For that reason, I try to run at least 1 to 2 stifle effects just in case.
Dress down,
defabricate.
So for me, it's all about it's Angel's Grace. Angel's Grace is my Thassa killer. Like I can't tell how many people I've forced to lose a game because I've Angel's Grace.
Yep.
On their
one way that a lot of people have been countering Thassa is by forcing the draw after the resolution of Demonic Consultation.
Oh yeah, if they have any way that forces them to draw.
Yep.
I've seen people playing Esper doing that, and they'll have Archivist Vogma out, and you just force the draw.
Yeah, I just lost a game the other day because I was playing Celestial Winter and I got milled out, and on my turn, Angel's Grace after somebody's milled me out, so I went for a win. They then proceeded to stop my combo, and then I passed turn, and he looked at me, and I had an Archivist, and he was like, "Play fetch land," and I was like, "Don't do it." And he was like, "Crack fetch land." I was like, "I'm dead."
Death by fetch land is painful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome way to lose.
The force tap of a City of Brass.
Oh.
Ugh. I've had that happen before. I stopped running City of Brass and Mana Confluence just because of that one time I lost to it.
That's hilarious.
There's so many good lands now that I don't think they're necessarily needed.
There's so many good lands.
Like both of those. It's like, don't get me wrong, they're great lands. The fact that you get all the colors that you might need. It's just.
I'll always be on City Brass. I don't know. I feel like in Modern maybe I'd be more scared of people tapping or like Legacy.
Speaking of Mana Confluence and City of Brass, the Horizon lands, the ones that cause you to lose life,
tap pale
the
life
ones
for 1 or
that
2.
do 5 colors specifically, I actually cut Mana Confluence out of my Felithar deck to put in a card called Lazotep Quarry.
Oh, I love that
And
card.
the reason that I chose to put that in is because it is an uninteractable way to sacrifice Hulk. Like, they can't stop you from tapping that land and sacrificing the Hulk card because it is a mana ability. It doesn't use the stack. Therefore, you get the sack Hulk on the stack. Then they have to have that Stifle card in hand to
Most
stop
people
the
don't
triggered
run
ability.
Stifle. And then on top of that Lazotep, you can pay also to bring back a copy of Hulk from your graveyard and do it again.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
such a good card for Hulk lines. I honestly, other than
Yep.
your deck and mine, I haven't seen a lot of people running it, which is kind of wild. It's one of those kind of hidden lands that I'd like to see it more often.
Yeah.
Because I've done that with
Um,
a Shieldred in the graveyard and just like, oh, let me just sack this, bring back a Shieldred in response to somebody doing some nonsense. And I'm like, oh, you want a wheel? Okay. You know?
So, when it comes to cutting cards, Brad, are there any questions that you advise for players to ask themselves when it comes to cutting cards? Like, if they're newer players, what would you recommend asking yourself if you were a newer player brewing a deck for the first time for CEDH?
First time brewer brewing a deck. I mean, if it's your first time brewing a deck, I'd definitely take a look at other decks just to kind of see what they're on. Especially if you're a first time brewer in like CDH. I would be poking around lists that have just won top tournaments. I'd be poking around those lists and seeing like, is this person on it? And like, is this person on it? And like, why are they not on it? Ask yourself, why would this person not be on it? And then if you can answer yourself why they're not on it and have a better answer for why you want to be on it, like try it out, go for it. But if you can't, then I would say, okay, like this person obviously just took first place in like a 80-person tournament. Like maybe this card isn't as good as I want it to be. But like I said, try it out. If you're in love with it, like everybody has their pet cards that they put in decks that maybe other people wouldn't run, but you're in love with it. Like I have a card that I've been wanting to put in deck for a long time, and it's not played in a single CDH deck, but I really want to run it because I think it would be really good, but it just never makes the cut. And it's Psychic Surgery, and it's been sitting on my desk forever with me staring at it, wanting to fit it in something. But it's an enchantment for 2 mana that it's a colorless and a blue that says, whenever an opponent shuffles his or her library, look at the top 2 cards of their library. You can exile one of those cards and put the rest on top in any order. And it's
I
like,
agree with you.
CDH it's such
That
like
card
a,
is definitely one that
it's
needs
so
to
like
find a home somewhere.
it's
just
just like
the question
everybody
becomes
searches,
where.
and even if they're not vamp tutoring or anything, right? Like, this just says keep
I
your
have
vamp tutoring.
one
in,
deck
like,
I
nobody's
run
gonna
that
do
in
it.
actually.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
it's-
have like,
and it's
I
my
have it in
wheel
decks
deck.
that are not CDH. Okay, yeah,
My
That's
Quazo wheel deck. I run it in there because I constantly am forcing shuffles.
yeah, they're shuffling people to shuffle. Like you're using your lands to blow up one of their lands. They have to search, right? Like, yeah, like, and it's just good because you get to say, I know that person has a land on top of their like. They don't need a land at this point. I'm gonna keep the land there, and I'm gonna exile the counter spell, or I'm gonna
Counter
exile the cool creature, and they can have the, or
Well,
maybe
it
they
also
need a
stops
land. And they're
Vampiric,
starving
too.
for them.
Vampiric.
It
in.
stops Vampiric. It stops everything. Like
You see what they went
any
and got
search.
for, and just go, nah, you don't need that.
Yeah, but like I said, nobody's gonna like cast a Vampiric tutor into it. Like,
I
this card,
mean-
unless they forgot it existed. I mean, I'm sure it happened.
Considering
Yeah,
it's a
with a
card that
board,
not
it comes
everybody
up.
sees, I'm 100%.
Yeah,
believe.
I'm sure people like if you took that to a tournament, you'd have so many people that would just crack a fetch and be like, "Wait, what?" And you're like, "Yeah, get rid of that card. Like you exile that." I just wish it was in black or white so I could just have it in Catcher Mouse because I would totally do it. You know how many cards you'd get to exile?
Oh yeah.
So
You know what? A crazy interaction too. It's actually in the rule text for that Psychic Surgery. Green Sun Zenith. You see that a lot in a lot of green decks. The fact that that card makes you shuffle twice, it does trigger the.
Oh,
it triggers on
crazy.
each shuffle. So they have made a ruling specifically for that interaction that you can shuffle once and then it just triggers twice afterwards as an acceptable shortcut. But that is up to you.
That's cool. Good to know. When it finds its way in a home one day.
Yeah.
It's been so close.
What's funny when you say that? I've seen this card in play, but it was years ago.
It's an old card. It's from New Phyrexia. It's only
It's
got the
it's
single
true.
printing.
Is it from new? I think it's from original Phyrexia.
New Phyrexia, MPH. That is it.
Yeah, it is. But like, I think it's just been power crept out. Because like, I've seen this card do work.
I think
I-
it does
sure it
more
does.
work now with the amount of like shuffling.
Everybody's
and
just searches.
searches.
Everybody shuffles and searches and fetches, and like just to be like, I know it's on top of your library. I know it's on top. Like if you
information.
play that and three people fetch in one turn, you now know what everybody's drawing like drawing at the table on their next turn.
As
Like,
well as possibly removing powerful cards from their deck. Like it
now is it a nightmare playing online? Yeah, like that. Maybe that's why it just keeps
Maybe.
not finding its way in. Like I don't even know how you do that online.
like how
but
you
show me
cut
those
Praetor's
cards.
Grasp
All right,
and
the one
most
in your left hand. Well, at least
Yeah.
Praetor's Grass. They know what you have, but like the
Yeah.
rest of the table doesn't.
Another
But, like,
one I like
This
too.
you'd have to be like every turn have the block out cameras and be like,
Yeah,
all right, the one in your left hand goes on top. The one in your right hand will be exiled.
Like,
you know, like,
for my Codas deck, I actually had, because I was like, well, for the most part, I'm not casting a ton of spells for mana, but I have half the list is mana dorks, so I can get stuff out quick. I had in there Sadistic Sacrament, one of those really interesting cards that can, if you can cast it with the kicker, you can literally kill a deck on the spot. But it's just online. Think about this: you have to search through somebody's, and it's just like, even if you just cast it for the 3, you're sitting there pulling 3 cards from somebody's deck, and it's like, if you don't play against that deck consistently, it's such a time sink.
Yeah.
yeah.
I do want to say that I have a few recommended questions that I would say for just EDH players as a general whole, more attuned to CEDH and budget CEDH and Dual Commander. Questions to ask yourself when you are brewing a deck is, does this card provide any utility for the deck when it comes to cutting cards or adding cards? Ask yourself these questions. Does this card add any utility to my deck? Is this card a combo enabler or a combo enhancer? Does this card do anything to synergize with anything in the deck? Or will it feel more dead than useful? Why do we want this effect in the deck? Do we want it for redundancy? Do we want it for main win lines? Do we want it to tutor for more stuff? Etc. These questions are very good when you're starting your brewing adventure, and I have a feeling that if you ask these questions for yourself, or you bring them to the Discords, because we have several Discord communities that are more than happy to help you brew a deck. If you bring these questions to those Discords and ask the players in that Discord if these cards feel good enough to answer any of these questions, your brewing experience will be miles better.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I mentioned, like when I first built Jolly Balloon Man and Catch Mouse, I immediately built the Discord because it's important to bounce ideas off of people, and don't just take everybody's word as like gospel, right? Like you want to be like, I understand that you feel this way about something, but I still really feel strongly about it, and you know, don't just let people tell you that you have to play Rogsai only and anything else is done. You know, you'll get a lot of people on the internet that are just like,
yeah.
it's not Rogsai, you're an idiot. Like, be better. And it's like, well, I don't want to play Rogsai. I want to play this. You know, so
That
make
one
sure
guy.
you know.
I have one guy at my LGS, and he was like looking over somebody's deck, and it was like somebody that was newer to the game, but somebody had told him, "Hey, put fetch lands in there." And this guy just like, "Why do you run fetches? They're terrible." And I'm like, I just look across the table at this guy. He's the next spot over, and I'm like, "Stop! Just please stop." There's never been a time where fetches have been worse for your deck than just having a regular land. It's just
Until opposition agent becomes a legendary creature, I think fetches are gonna
Oh
be fun.
god.
yeah. If they ever make a commander oppo,
If psychic surgery just takes off and everybody starts playing the meta though, are fetches that good? I'm just kidding.
yeah. But it's just more often than not, it's like it's deck thinning. It's like just
Yeah,
that was such a
deck thinning.
hot take. It's like not everybody that is reviewing your deck knows.
Everything. Well, that was me. So I've been playing since the '90s, right? And I really never really stopped. Like I've taken small breaks, like a year or two off, right, and got right back into it. But I've been playing competitively since I was like 12. So like, I sometimes I'd go online and ask people a question, and I just get all this feedback. And at the end of it, I'd just be like, no, wait, timeout. No, I know what I'm doing. Like, why am I? Like, I went to these
Right.
people and I'm right. Like, I don't know why. Like, I'm asking these people. I'm right. And then I'm like, thanks for your input or whatever, and I just stick with it, right? But at the end of the day, get a community, get people like you got, these guys at this table, right? Like you got a lot of people out there that have experience with many various decks, different colors, different strategies, like reanimation strategies and things like that. So like, build your base of people that that play the game and ask questions and talk about it. Go back and forth. I love when somebody pressures me on a card and makes, like, TTC will pressure me on a card really hard. Like, he will not hold back, and I'll have to explain it to him. And like by the end of it, he'll go, "All right, B, like you're right. Like I think you're right. You convinced me." And it's like, yeah, cool. Okay, like yeah. Now I know it. Like now that we had that conversation, like I know it. Or sometimes I'm like, dude, you're right. Like I'm cutting this. Like what was I thinking? So. Yeah, build a community, go on these discords. I mean, there's so many discords out there. There's Discord for everything, right? So I'm sure there's a MTG reanimation Discord where like you can just go to talk reanimation strategies. Like there's so many out there. Like you just join the Elder Brew House, come to my Discord. Like there's so many Discords of people that are super open and experienced that will help you any way they can.
Definitely.
Everybody's really cool.
If it's okay with you, Brad, I would like to actually put your Discord in our description for this episode so that people can join both yours and our Discords.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. I'll make sure that we link his channel and his Discord down in the description below. We are getting a little tight on time, so that long conversation about choosing one commander over Roxai, the point of it is stick to your guns. If you feel that commander is better with the way that you play commander, go for it. Prove us wrong. Show why Kess is better than Roxai. Show us why Bellathar is better than Timna Halana. Show us why Ketramos is better than Teysa, or vice versa. There's been a lot of talk about Ketramos being better than Teysa or better than Timna, and it's been a very entertaining time with that. With that being said, I would love to thank Brad for being on our episode for this time around, and go ahead and keep your brews strong, your plays sharper, and your games legendary. Until next time, may your decks be aged to perfection.